Hi guys, it's Michelle and today's video is going to be yet another unsolved mystery video. This case is probably one of the most crazy unsolved cases that I have ever seen, but before we get into it, I would like to thank HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you probably know I am literally obsessed with HelloFresh. I actually genuinely use it and it is incredible because HelloFresh has more 5-star recipes than any other meal kit, and so that way you know you're getting a very delicious meal every single time. HelloFresh helps you save time by cutting out the stressful meal planning and meal prepping, so you can just enjoy cooking and you can get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or even 20 minutes with their quick and easy options. My favorite thing about HelloFresh is that every single ingredient that you get is pre-portioned, so not only does that save you time, but it also means less wasted food. HelloFresh is also super flexible because you can change delivery days if you need to, or even skip a week if you need to, if you're like out of town or something. It is seriously so convenient. I also love that HelloFresh is committed to giving back. In 2019, they donated over 2.5 million meals to charity, which is super amazing. And this year, they're stepping up their food donations even more amid the coronavirus pandemic, which is super helpful and really amazing. HelloFresh has given me some of my favorite recipes that I have ever had. This recipe that I tried and made for you guys today and that you're seeing is this amazing chickpea and couscous shawarma bowl, and it was so delicious. I've literally never had a recipe that I didn't absolutely love from HelloFresh. Me and all my friends are absolutely obsessed with it. We all get it, and it's so much fun because sometimes we cook together. It's so great. It's so easy. And I seriously recommend you guys try out HelloFresh. So if you want to check out HelloFresh, you can use my code Platti80 and get $80 off, including free shipping on your first box with purchase. So go to HelloFresh.com to redeem and for more details. I'm not even kidding, try it out because you will not regret it. It seriously makes everything so much easier, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. I don't particularly love going to the grocery store so much. So this pretty much cuts that out entirely when I'm using HelloFresh because all the meals just come to me and it's beautiful and amazing and it's all pre-portioned. It's great. Seriously, go check them out. So let's get into the unsolved mystery. Today we're going to be following an unsolved mystery that was talked about in the Netflix documentary. I felt like this, for some reason, didn't get as much attention as some of the other cases, which was super interesting to me because I think this is the most crazy case out of all of them, and I feel like it's going to be solved like pretty soon. I think it's because the entirety of the episode is in French, and I know a lot of people don't like reading subtitles for some reason, but I think that this is definitely the most interesting of any of the unsolved mysteries that Netflix covered. So we're going to be going over the case, talking about like what happened and everything, and then we're going to talk about some theories that Reddit fans have had. It's pretty crazy. I have some theories of my own, so let's get into it. So the story we're going to be talking about today takes place in France, and it is the story of the House of Terror. A little bit back and forth whether this is called the House of Terror or the House of Horror, because in France they refer to this case as La Maison de l'Horreur, which directly translates to House of Horrors, but the episode itself is called House of Terrors, but either way, both terrible and horrible. So this story follows the Dupont-Ligonnès family. Sorry for my pronunciation. I haven't taken French in quite some time. They're basically an aristocratic French family who lived in Nantes, France. They lived in a modern home. It was very nice, and it was in the suburbs of this area. Father, Xavier, was very successful in the eyes of his family and his friends and just like neighbors. Everyone thought he was a very successful businessman. This is how they painted Xavier in the beginning of the story, but it turns out that he actually was really not. He had lost a ton of money. He was no longer successful. At the point of all of this, Xavier was really struggling to make ends meet, but no one really knew that that was going on. Xavier met his wife Agnès in the 1980s. They were together for a while, but then they ended up breaking up because Xavier wanted to travel and see the world. While he was gone, Agnès actually got pregnant with another man, so Xavier came back and decided to adopt this child and give him, you know, his name and everything. So this child became Arthur Dupont de Ligonnès. Fun skin. Not great at pronouncing those last names. Agnès and Xavier ended up getting married, and together they had 3 kids of their own: Thomas, Anne, and Benoit. Things started deteriorating in this family, and we really saw the effects of that in 2011 when this family who, you know, appeared as, you know, upper middle class ended up having the lease on their house terminated, all of their bank accounts closed. It just ended up being that the father, who, you know, came across as a successful businessman, was definitely not. He was tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I think the event that everyone agrees is what really set this story in motion was on January 20th of 2011 when Xavier's father passed away. Pretty safe to say that Xavier expected some sort of financial, you know, inheritance, but he ended up only inheriting a rifle. And that was when he really had a shift in his personality and things got very dark. On March 12th of 2011, he bought bullets for the rifle. Him and his sons, Thomas and Benoit, actually took like classes at a shooting range, and Xavier even bought a little piece that's called a silencer, and it basically makes it so he can shoot things in the suburbs and no one would hear it. Which brings us to April of 2011 when this normal suburban home became La Maison de l'Horreur, aka the House of Terror. So it's a little confusing because we're not exactly sure when and exactly what happened, but essentially Agnes was allegedly last seen, there's some discrepancies later that we'll talk about, on April 3rd, 2011. The couple and the 3 children, because Thomas was away at college at this point, actually went out to dinner that night at a restaurant and to the cinema. April 4th, 2011, Anne and Benoit did not show up at school that day. So therefore it is believed that Agnes, Arthur, Anne, and Benoit were all murdered on the night of April 3rd, 2011. Like I said before, Thomas was actually at university. 2 days after this, Thomas got a call from Xavier saying that his mother had been in a cycling accident and that he needed to come home. So he did. It is believed that he was murdered on April 5th, 2011. People believe that he actually hesitated to murder Thomas because he was like the last of his lineage and he wasn't sure if he wanted to do it, but then ended up obviously doing so. What is kind of weird about this case, and we're going to talk about this later in the theories section of this video, but Agnes was actually allegedly seen by 2 different neighbors after the point of her death on April 7th, 2011. A couple different eyewitnesses claim that they saw her, even one of them claiming that they had a conversation with her on April 7th, 2011. So that's a bit confusing, but we're going to talk about that later, like I said. On April 13th, 2011, the neighbors started to get kind of suspicious about what was going on. This was a very lively family. They were always going out, going to school, going to church, but they were just nowhere to be found. The shutters were closed on all of the house windows and they just got very suspicious. Even the mail, like on the door where you put mail in, was taped up and it said, "Please return all correspondence to sender. Thank you." Xavier's close friends and relatives actually received a letter from him. It was dated April 11th, 2011. It basically said that him and his family were moving to the United States because they were going to be working for the DEA, aka the Drug Enforcement Administration. As basically a spy, this story is pretty confusing and it doesn't really add up because they basically said that they were going to be moving to America, changing their names, and they would like not see them for a while. So this was really when the investigation started to kick in and the police were basically at the house going over and trying to find any evidence of what happened to this entire family. April 21st of 2011, the investigators sadly discovered the bodies of Agnes, the children, and the 2 family Labradors. They were buried under the terrace. It was just Agnes, the kids, and the 2 dogs, but Xavier was nowhere to be found. So this was when it kind of became a search for Xavier, just to figure out where the hell he was, because everyone obviously assumed that he was the one who killed his whole entire family. This was when they discovered that Xavier, for the past few weeks, like after he murdered his family, had been traveling along the coast of France, going to places that was, you know, important to him in his childhood, making several stops along the way. He didn't really like try to hide or anything. Very much was seen on security cameras, and also he used his own credit card, he withdrew money, like he wasn't trying to hide basically. This made the investigators believe that he was kind of going on a final goodbye to his life and he was going to commit suicide. In like 98% of cases where someone kills their entire family, they also commit suicide. So it's obviously pretty common in this situation, so that is what investigators assumed he was doing. His car was then found at the Formula 1 hotel, and there's a security camera from that hotel that was outside, and it shows Xavier going to the camera and like holding a bag in his hand, and it's clear that the bag is like probably holding the rifle. And he kind of like looks at the camera and people think it was like kind of a goodbye, and he walks off just into the mountains. And I think that what he wanted people to think was he was going into the mountains to commit suicide, which is what people thought. And they searched and searched and searched for his body, but found nothing. So a lot of people, since there was no body recovered from anywhere in that area, believe that he just wanted the investigators to think that he was committing suicide, but he actually just got away. I definitely believe that. I think it's possible that he did commit suicide, but if you look into the case, like the details of this case, he was so meticulous about covering up the crimes that it makes no sense that he just like didn't care about being seen on security cameras. Like, it's just is too like well thought out. The house had no indication that anything sinister had happened there, obviously, until they found the bodies under the terrace, but it was completely scrubbed clean of any blood, just anything that would ever signify something really sinister was happening at the house. It's just so weird that he was so meticulous with that, but then just like would use his own credit card when like, you know, making his escape. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Why would he take so long to cover something up if he was just gonna commit suicide after that? Like, it just doesn't really make sense. How was there no blood anywhere in the house? Like, anywhere. It's just, it's wild. So this guy was definitely very, very meticulous when it comes to this. So that's scary to think about, because where the hell is he? That's where we go into some of the fan theories about where Xavier is. Of course, some people do believe that he did just commit suicide and his body has not been recovered yet. Personally, I don't think that's true, because I just think that they've searched so much of the area that there's no way that, like, I just don't think that I don't know. The next common theory is that he is actually somewhere off in South America. A lot of his friends believe this theory because they were talking about it in the documentary, and they talked about how he's really good at speaking English and Spanish. So it'd be pretty easy for him to move to South America and have no problems with the language barrier. It's also important to note that there's been documents of thousands of sightings of Xavier, and I'm sure it's going to even explode after the Unsolved Mysteries like came out on Netflix, because obviously a lot of people watch that and a lot more people are going to be, you know, seeing his face. And he looks pretty common, which is kind of the difficult part of this, because there have been several instances where people have almost been arrested because they thought it was Xavier, because he just looks so plain and basic that like anybody could look like that. Some people even believe that Xavier got plastic surgery and is now living a new life in Scotland. I think this is actually what the police believe, so that's really interesting and pretty weird. In 2015, a journalist actually received a picture of Arthur and Benoit, and it had a handwritten note on it that said, "I am still alive." Obviously, this could be a hoax or a joke or whatever, but it is pretty weird. And there's this one theory that a lot of Reddit users believe that is pretty insane. And this theory was actually created by Xavier's sister, mother, and brother-in-law. So they genuinely believe that their family member is innocent, which kind of like it makes sense, I guess, because obviously you would probably be in like denial that your son or brother could murder his entire family. Like, that's just horrible. So they genuinely believe that he's innocent, and that the story about the DEA and them moving to the US to like be a spy for the DEA is true. The basis of this theory really talks about the discrepancies, like how Agnes was allegedly seen and talked to by, you know, her neighbors on April 7th, which was like after she had allegedly died. The house had weird discrepancies as well. Like, there was different things that were moved or found like days in the investigation, which didn't make sense because, like I said, Xavier had already left and was traveling throughout France. But no one's quite sure. The only thing that makes me kind of believe it is that there was no DNA testing on the family. In France, it's not mandatory to do a DNA testing. No one confirmed that this was the family, and there's no DNA testing to prove it, and they were also cremated, so people are quite, you know, skeptical about that. And so the basis of the theory is that the DEA, which I feel like they don't have the like means to do this, set up a fake murder scene, and the real family, including Xavier, all live in the United States now and are working for the DEA under different names, maybe had plastic surgery. I don't know. I just don't believe this, like, at all. I'm not saying it's impossible for the entire family to be alive, but I just find it incredibly unlikely. I think Xavier actually did kill them, and I do think that he's still out there, though. That's the one thing that I would say I do believe is he's definitely still out there. As for the discrepancies, I think that eyewitnesses are like the least reliable. There's many cases where people have gone missing, turned out to have passed away, and people will claim that they saw them in the time where it would have been impossible to see them. So yeah, it's possible that they actually did see Agnes on April 7th, but it's also possible that they got the dates wrong. I truly think that Xavier just fooled investigators and made it look like he committed suicide so that he could continue his life. I also personally think that the South America theory does make the most sense, but of course there have been sightings of him all over the world, and I just think he's probably not in France, but who knows where he could be. He could very well be in America. He could be your next door neighbor. It's creepy. I don't like that. That is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this unsolved case. Do you think that Xavier is somewhere out there? What do you think happened? I would love to hear your opinions on it. Thank you again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Like I said, if you guys want to go get $80 off plus free shipping off your first box with purchase, then definitely go to HelloFresh.com and use my promo code Platti80. That is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!